Right now, someone is thinking about you more than they would if you were constantly available to them. That person who barely texts back has more power over your emotions than the friend who replies instantly. The boss, who's rarely in the office, commands more respect than the one who's always around. This isn't coincidence. This is psychology. And 500 years ago, a brilliant Italian strategist named Machiavelli understood something most people still don't get today. Your absence is more powerful than your presence. But here's what nobody tells you. Most people do this completely wrong. They think playing hard to get means being rude or ignoring people forever. That's not strategy. That's just being an amateur. Real power comes from understanding the ghost strategy. You become unforgettable by learning when to disappear. Think about the last time someone canceled plans with you. How much mental energy did you spend thinking about why? Compare that to someone who's always available, always saying yes, always around. Who occupies more space in your mind? The person who's predictable or the one who keeps you guessing? Every relationship in your life operates on this principle. Your career, your friendships, your romantic connections, even how your family treats you. The people who master strategic absence don't just get more respect. They get more opportunities, deeper connections, and genuine influence. They understand that scarcity creates value and mystery creates attraction. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to use Machiavelli's ghost strategy to transform how people see you, think about you, and respond to you. But first, you need to understand why your constant availability is actually pushing people away and killing your influence. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when to show up, when to step back, and how to make every interaction count. The ghost strategy isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature and using it to build stronger, more meaningful connections. Number 1. The phantom value principle. Here's something that will blow your mind. The most successful people you know aren't the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones whose time feels impossible to get. You've experienced this yourself. Think about that teacher, boss, or mentor who changed your life. Were they always available? Always responding immediately? Or did every moment with them feel earned, special, weighted with importance? Most people make a fatal mistake. They believe being helpful means being available all the time. They answer every call, respond to every text instantly, say yes to every meeting. They think this makes them valuable. But here's the brutal truth. The more available you are, the less people value your time. The more you give away your attention, the cheaper it becomes. There's a psychological principle at work here that most people don't understand. When something is abundant, our brains categorize it as less important. When something is scarce, we automatically assign it higher value. This isn't conscious. This is hardwired into how humans think. Your constant availability is literally training people's brains to see your time as worthless. But what if I told you there's a way to reverse this? What if you could make every interaction with you feel significant? What if people started preparing for conversations with you because they knew your attention wasn't guaranteed? The most powerful people in history understood this instinctively. Kings held court at specific times. Wise teachers had office hours. Successful business leaders blocked their calendars strategically. They didn't hide from people. They created structure around their availability that made every interaction matter. Now, here's where most people get confused. They think creating phantom value means being rude or ignoring people. That's amateur hour. Real phantom value isn't about being difficult. It's about being intentional. It's about creating systems that naturally make your time more precious. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he didn't work more hours than everyone else. He worked specific hours with laser focus. When Warren Buffett gives advice, it's not because he's always available for advice. It's because his insights are rare, concentrated, and delivered with intention. Your availability right now is probably scattered. You check emails constantly. You respond to texts immediately. You take calls whenever they come. You attend meetings that don't matter. Every time you do this, you're teaching people that your time has no boundaries, no structure, no special value. This brings me to strategy number 1 out of 5 that will completely transform how people perceive and treat you. I call it the phantom value principle. Instead of just being scarce, you're going to create phantom value by establishing yourself as someone whose time has weight. Here's exactly how you do this. You schedule specific windows when you're available and you stick to them religiously. You check messages at set times during the day. You take calls during predetermined hours. You schedule meetings within defined time blocks. When people know you only engage during certain times, every interaction becomes more valuable because it's finite. This isn't about being difficult to reach. This is about training people to value your attention because they know it's not unlimited. When someone gets 30 minutes of your focused time, they prepare differently than if they think they can have unlimited access whenever they want. Start tomorrow. Pick 3 specific times during the day when you'll check and respond to messages. Maybe it's 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. That's it. Outside those windows, you're focused on your priorities. Pick specific hours for phone calls. Maybe it's 10 to 11 a.m. and 3 to 4 p.m. That's when you're available for conversations. Watch what happens. People start scheduling around your availability. They prepare better for conversations because they know your time is structured. They value the interactions more because they're not constant and random. The phantom value principle works because it creates anticipation. People know when they can reach you, but they also know when they can't. This creates a rhythm of engagement and withdrawal that makes every interaction feel more significant. You're not hiding from people. You're creating a framework that naturally makes your time more precious. Number 2, the echo effect technique. Have you ever noticed how the most memorable conversations in your life ended when you wanted them to continue? Think about it. That amazing first date that ended just when things were getting really good. That inspiring conversation with a mentor who had to leave right when they dropped the most profound insight. That friend who said something brilliant and then had to run to catch a train. Those moments stick with you, don't they? They replay in your mind for days, weeks, sometimes years. You find yourself thinking about what else might have been said. You imagine how the conversation could have continued. The ending wasn't satisfying, but somehow that made the whole experience more powerful. Most people do the exact opposite. They try to squeeze every last drop out of every conversation. They keep talking until the energy dies. They drag out phone calls until everyone's tired. They stay at parties until the magic is gone. They think more is better. But more usually leads to less impact. Here's what's happening in your brain during those conversations that end too soon. When something is interrupted at its peak, your mind doesn't just move on. It creates what psychologists call an open loop. Your brain keeps processing the incomplete experience. It fills in the gaps. It imagines continuations. The conversation doesn't end when the talking stops. It continues in your thoughts. This is why cliffhangers work in movies and TV shows. This is why the best songs leave you wanting more. This is why successful people often leave meetings early, end phone calls while the energy is high, and wrap up conversations when they're most engaging. Think about the people who have the most influence in your life. Do they talk until there's nothing left to say? Or do they share powerful insights and then give you space to think about them? The wisest people I know are masters of the strategic exit. They know when to speak and when to stop speaking. But here's where most people struggle. They're so afraid of being rude or missing out that they never leave conversations at the right moment. They think politeness means staying until the bitter end. They worry that leaving early means they don't care. But the opposite is true. Leaving at the right moment shows you value the quality of the interaction over the quantity. The most charismatic people understand timing better than content. They know that how you end a conversation determines how people remember the entire interaction. They know that people don't remember what you said as much as how you made them feel. And few things make people feel more engaged than wanting more of your presence. This leads me to strategy number 2 out of 5 for making your absence more powerful than your presence. I call it the echo effect technique. You're going to master the art of strategic conversation endings. Instead of trying to have the last word, you're going to become the person who leaves conversations at their peak. Here's the key. You wait for the energy to build. You participate fully in the conversation. You add value, share insights, ask great questions. But then, when the energy is highest, when people are most engaged, when the conversation could keep going for hours, that's when you gracefully exit. When the conversation could keep going for hours, that's when you gracefully exit. You don't end abruptly or rudely. You acknowledge the value of the conversation. You express appreciation for the connection. But you leave while people want more, not after they've had enough. This creates an echo effect where people replay the conversation in their minds, filling the silence with their own thoughts about you. The conversation continues long after you've left the room, the call, or the chat. Start paying attention to energy levels in your conversations. Most conversations have natural peaks and valleys. The peak is when everyone's engaged, when insights are flowing, when people are leaning in. That's your exit cue, not when the energy crashes, not when people start checking their phones. When it's at its highest point. Practice this with low-stakes conversations first. Coffee meetings that could go on forever. Phone calls with friends who like to chat. Team meetings where you could contribute more but don't need to. End these interactions while they're still energized. Leave people thinking about what you said instead of waiting for you to stop talking. The echo effect technique transforms you from someone who takes up conversational space to someone who creates conversational impact. People remember you not for how long you talked, but for how you made them feel when the talking stopped. Number 3. The lighthouse method picture. A lighthouse on a rocky coast. Ships depend on its light to navigate safely, but the light doesn't shine constantly. It rotates. It appears, disappears, then appears again in a steady rhythm. Sailors can't predict exactly when they'll see the beam, but they know it follows a pattern. They trust its reliability even when they can't see it. This is exactly how the most magnetic people operate in relationships. They're not constantly visible, but they're consistently present when it matters. They show up intensely for important moments, then step back. They create anticipation without abandonment. People learn to treasure their focused attention because they understand it rotates, not because it's rare. Most people get this backwards. They're either always on or completely absent. They're the friend who texts constantly for 3 weeks, then disappears for a month. They're the colleague who's in every meeting but contributes nothing meaningful. They're the romantic partner who's either smothering with attention or completely withdrawn. This creates confusion, not intrigue. When your availability has no pattern, people can't build expectations. When your presence is random, your absence feels like rejection. When your attention is unpredictable, relationships become anxiety-inducing rather than exciting. But here's what the masters understand. Humans crave patterns, but they're excited by variation within those patterns. We want rhythm, not monotony. We want reliability with elements of surprise. We want to feel secure about someone's general availability while staying curious about when they'll appear next. Think about the people who have the strongest pull in your life. The mentor who shows up exactly when you need guidance. The friend who's always there for big moments but doesn't text about every small detail. The leader who's intensely present during important meetings but doesn't micromanage every task. These people have mastered what I call strategic inconsistency. They're consistent in their commitment, but inconsistent in their availability. They're reliable in their values, but unpredictable in their timing. They're dependable for what matters, but mysterious in their daily rhythms. This creates a powerful psychological effect. When people know you'll show up for important things but can't predict your daily availability, every interaction carries weight. They pay more attention when you're present because they know your presence isn't guaranteed. They value your input more because they know it's not constant. The lighthouse doesn't apologize for not shining constantly. It doesn't dim its light to make everyone comfortable. When it appears, it shines brilliantly. When it's not visible, ships know it's still there, still reliable, just following its natural rhythm. This brings me to strategy number 3 out of 5 for making your absence more powerful than your presence. I call it the lighthouse method. You're going to be consistently inconsistent in your availability patterns. Like a lighthouse that appears and disappears but follows a reliable rhythm, you'll establish a pattern people can sense but not predict. Here's how this works in practice. You show up intensely for important moments, then step back. You're fully present for the birthday dinner, but not available for casual hangouts every weekend. You contribute powerfully in team meetings, but don't respond to every non-urgent message immediately. You're deeply engaged during meaningful conversations, but not constantly texting throughout the day. The key is creating a rhythm that people can feel but not fully figure out. You want them to know you're reliable for what matters without being able to predict exactly when you'll be available for everything else. Start by identifying your lighthouse moments. What are the times when your presence has the most impact? Maybe it's during crisis situations. Maybe it's during celebrations. Maybe it's during creative brainstorming sessions. These are your moments to shine brightly. Then, identify your rotation periods. When do you step back to recharge, focus on your priorities, or simply create space for anticipation? Maybe it's during routine tasks. Maybe it's during your personal time. Maybe it's during periods when others can handle things without you. The lighthouse method creates anticipation without abandonment. People know you're there. They know you care. They know you'll show up when it counts. But they also know your attention rotates. This makes every moment of your focused presence more valuable because people understand it's not constant. You become someone people look forward to seeing rather than someone they take for granted. Your presence becomes an event rather than a given. Your attention becomes a gift rather than an expectation. Number 4, the incomplete circle strategy. Your brain is doing something right now that you're probably not aware of. It's trying to complete patterns, fill in gaps, and solve puzzles without your conscious permission. Show someone a circle with a small gap, and their mind immediately wants to close it. Tell someone the beginning of a story without the ending, and they'll create their own conclusion. Give someone partial information about anything, and they'll spend mental energy filling in the missing pieces. This is called the Zeigarnik effect, and it's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. We remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. We think more about unfinished stories than finished ones. We're more intrigued by people we don't fully understand than people who are completely transparent. Yet most people do the opposite in their relationships. They share everything immediately. They explain every thought, every feeling, every experience in complete detail. They think transparency equals connection. They believe that revealing everything about themselves creates intimacy. But here's what actually happens. When there's nothing left to discover about you, people stop being curious about you. Think about the most fascinating people you know. Are they the ones who tell you everything about their lives, or are they the ones who share just enough to keep you interested, but always leave you wanting to know more? The people who captivate us aren't necessarily the most mysterious, but they understand the power of strategic revelation. This isn't about being secretive or deceptive. This is about understanding that curiosity is the engine of all relationships. When people are curious about you, they think about you. When they think about you, you occupy mental space in their lives. When you occupy mental space, you have influence. The most magnetic people reveal themselves in layers. They share meaningful insights but leave room for questions. They tell interesting stories but don't explain every detail. They show vulnerability but maintain some personal boundaries. They're authentic but not completely transparent. Social media has taught us to document everything, share every thought, broadcast every experience. We think that more sharing equals more connection, but the opposite is often true. When people can see everything about your life through your posts, when they know exactly what you're thinking through your updates, when they understand your complete personality through your content, there's nothing left to discover through actual interaction. The people who understand strategic revelation create what I call productive curiosity. They give people just enough information to be interested, but not enough to be satisfied. They answer questions in ways that create new questions. They share stories that make people want to hear more stories. This leads to deeper conversations because people have to engage with you directly to learn more. It leads to stronger relationships because people invest mental energy in understanding you. It leads to more influence because people who are curious about you are more likely to seek your opinion and value your perspective. This brings me to strategy number 4 out of 5 for making your absence more powerful than your presence. I call it the incomplete circle strategy. You're going to share just enough of yourself to create intrigue, then withdraw before the full picture is revealed. In conversations, in your social media presence, in how you present your life, you'll always leave something unsaid, something unexplored. People's minds naturally want to complete incomplete patterns. By managing what you reveal and when, you become a puzzle people want to solve rather than a book they've already read. Here's how to implement this immediately. In conversations, share the interesting part of your story, but not every detail. Answer questions completely, but don't volunteer information that wasn't asked. Express your opinions clearly, but don't explain the entire thought process behind them. On social media, post content that gives glimpses into your life without documenting everything. Share insights without explaining exactly how you learned them. Show results without revealing every step of the process. In relationships, be authentic about your feelings without analyzing every emotion. Share your goals without outlining your complete strategy. Be vulnerable about your struggles without providing a full autobiography. The incomplete circle strategy works because it respects people's natural curiosity while giving them permission to engage with you to learn more. You're not being mysterious for the sake of mystery. You're creating space for genuine interaction by not filling every space with information. When people have to engage with you directly to understand you fully, every interaction becomes more valuable. When there's always something more to discover about you, relationships stay dynamic and interesting. Number 5, the gravitational pull reversal. Right now, you're probably chasing opportunities, chasing relationships, chasing attention, chasing validation. You're reaching out first, initiating conversations, making plans, following up, checking in. You think this makes you proactive, engaged, caring. But here's what's really happening. Every time you chase, you position yourself as someone who needs something from others, rather than someone who has something to offer. Think about the most powerful people in your life. Your favorite teacher, your best mentor, your most respected leader. Do they chase students, followers, or team members? Or do people naturally come to them seeking guidance, insight, and connection? They've mastered something most people never learn. They've reversed the gravitational pull. In physics, objects with greater mass naturally attract objects with lesser mass. In relationships, people with greater value naturally attract people seeking that value. But here's the mistake most people make. They think they need to actively pull people toward them. They think attraction requires action, pursuit, chasing. The truth is the opposite. Real attraction happens when you stop chasing and start creating value that naturally draws people to you. When you become someone worth seeking out rather than someone who seeks out others. This doesn't mean becoming passive or uninterested in relationships. This means shifting from pushing energy to pulling energy, from seeking attention to earning attention, from chasing opportunities to creating opportunities that chase you. Most people have their relationship energy backwards. They spend 80% of their time reaching out and 20% of their time being worth reaching out to. They focus on being interested rather than being interesting. They work on getting people's attention rather than deserving people's attention. But when you reverse this ratio, everything changes. When you spend 80% of your energy becoming someone worth knowing and 20% actually reaching out, people start coming to you. When you focus more on being valuable than on getting value, others begin seeking what you have to offer. The people who naturally attract others aren't necessarily the most outgoing or socially aggressive. They're the ones who consistently add value to every interaction. They share insights that make people think. They offer help that genuinely matters. They create experiences people remember. Then they step back and let the gravity of that value pull people toward them. This is about becoming a source rather than a seeker. Sources attract. Seekers chase. When you're constantly reaching out, initiating, following up, you're operating as a seeker. When people reach out to you, initiate contact with you, follow up with you, you're operating as a source. The shift happens when you start focusing more on what you can give than what you can get. When you enter conversations thinking about how you can add value rather than what you hope to gain. When you create content, share ideas, and offer assistance because you want to contribute, not because you want something in return. This brings me to strategy number 5 out of 5 for making your absence more powerful than your presence. I call it the gravitational pull reversal. Instead of always reaching out first, you're going to create situations where others naturally come to you. You'll become the person who adds unique value to every interaction, but doesn't chase the interaction itself. You'll share insights that make people think, offer help that genuinely matters, create experiences people remember, then step back and let the gravity of that value pull people toward you. Here's your action plan. First, audit your current relationship energy. How much time do you spend reaching out versus being worth reaching out to? How often do you initiate versus how often others initiate with you? This ratio tells you everything about your current gravitational pull. Second, start adding more value than you seek to extract. In every conversation, every meeting, every interaction, focus on what you can contribute rather than what you hope to gain. Share useful information. Ask thoughtful questions. Offer genuine assistance. Make people feel better after interacting with you than they did before. Third, reduce your outreach by 50% and increase your value creation by 200%. Spend less time texting, calling, and initiating. Spend more time learning, creating, and becoming someone worth seeking out. The gravitational pull reversal transforms you from someone who seeks attention to someone who naturally attracts it. From someone who chases opportunities to someone who creates them. From someone who needs others to someone others need. These 5 strategies aren't just techniques. They're a complete transformation of how you show up in the world. The phantom value principle teaches you to structure your availability. The echo effect technique shows you when to leave conversations. The lighthouse method creates anticipation through strategic consistency. The incomplete circle strategy uses curiosity as connection. The gravitational pull reversal makes you magnetic rather than needy. But here's what matters most. This isn't about manipulation or playing games with people's emotions. This is about understanding human psychology and using that knowledge to build stronger, more meaningful relationships. When you make your presence more valuable, your relationships become more valuable too. Machiavelli understood that power isn't about force. It's about understanding how people think and feel, then positioning yourself accordingly. Your absence becomes powerful not because you're hiding, but because your presence becomes so valuable that people notice when it's missing. Start with one strategy. Master it. Then add another. Within months, you'll notice people paying more attention when you speak, valuing your time more highly, and seeking you out rather than you always reaching out to them. You'll have learned the ghost strategy. You'll understand how to become unforgettable by learning when to disappear. The next video the algorithm chose for you isn't random. It's your next tactical upgrade. Click it now and continue your silent ascent. Those who hesitate lose influence.